Hey there, Beard here. This is just a bit of an update video, and I've been dreading to make this video, but there's just a bunch of things that I gotta talk about. You'll be seeing this on the Reloading channel, because I want to talk a bit about reloading here, and I'll talk about myself a bit here as well, but first and foremost, for the longest part of this video, again, at least I hope, we'll be talking about reloading. So that's why you're seeing this. And yeah, for one, I don't want to worry anyone. Reloading isn't going anywhere. We might just be slowing down. And I'll talk about all the reasons as to why it'll be probably slowing down for a bit. This is completely unscripted, so I'm sorry if this ends up being a rant that doesn't go anywhere at any point of this, but I really hope that if you're interested and if you want to really, if you're genuinely like quote unquote a fan of reloading, I hate that word, but it's the best that comes to mind right now. It's almost midnight. It's 30 degrees in my room, centigrade, and I'm tired as fuck. So I'm sorry if I sound super tired right now and everything like that. And I'll take a bit to really talk or say, bring across what I want to say. So yeah, I hope you can stick through this with me, because there's a bunch of stuff that I want to say here about reloading, again, about myself in the GFL community, all that stuff. So first and foremost, you might have seen what I just posted very, very shortly on the Reloading Twitter about the next episode being postponed until whenever Protocol Assimilation comes out. And if I can find it real quick, basically what I said is we don't have the resources or the time or the community support right now to work on all of our other episode ideas that we would have. So we have to entirely rely on the game for content to talk about. And, we could start talking about costumes that get released and furniture sets and new doll batches and stuff like that. But if we always did that every 2 weeks, that would just end up being a half-hour episode at most. And, we want to try and make engaging content, right? Especially if the game's been in a bit of a dry spell recently, right? We had Polarized Light, of course, which was fantastic, but it's cut short. We're now waiting for Chapter 13, which it's probably gonna be another few months. Isomer is coming to campaign. That's neat, but no new content there. The only thing we're waiting for right now is Protocol Assimilation, and that should have been out 3 weeks ago at this point, or 2 weeks ago at the least. We were promised an early June release date, and we're now heading pretty quickly towards the second to last Tuesday of the month. So that was a fucking lie. Anyways, what I mostly want to talk about is that reloading hasn't been doing so spicy, and it won't do very spicy looking forward into the future, because as you might have noticed, the break between Season 1 and 2 really took the wind out of our sails. Now I'm going to be completely transparent here. The break was much longer than we anticipated. We wanted to come back much earlier, but the break was because at the time I was with Ari. We were together for those 2 months. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, because if she does, and she's listening to right now, sorry. But again, I'm doing this for the sake of transparency. We were together for those 2 months. I really didn't take the breakup well, so that delayed things even further. We did want to make a few episodes, but never ended up coming around to it because there was just way too much stuff. Priorities shift when you're in a relationship. So yeah, none of that really happened. And when we wanted to come back with a bang, the special episode that we wanted to do completely fell through. Then the guest that we wanted to bring on completely fell through, which would have been probably the biggest thing. Which would have been the biggest thing I'd done in my YouTube career. And, I talked about this on my private account and on the Reloading account a bit as well. I alluded to who it might be. I'm just gonna state it outright. It would have been Tectone. We would have brought on Tectone, talked about Genshin a bunch, maybe talked about Arknights a bunch, because those who follow me should know Arknights and GFL have a lot of negative history together, just like the guy, Tectone himself has a lot of negative history with Arknights. And, people are always going to be like, oh, he's done this and that, and nah, he was a big meanie, bobini. I don't care about any of that stuff, right? Now, what was I saying? Right, so the seasonal break took a lot of wind out of our sails. And, of course, I'd be lying if I said, we don't pull views anymore, we gotta do something. But truth is that, our Season 2 pilot, talking about Polarized Light, didn't do nearly as well as we expected. And in a double whammy, neither did last week's or the last episode's special. That didn't do well at all either. Much worse, actually. And I'm saying that not because I care about the numbers, but the thing is, those numbers represent people reached. And that's what I make content for. I make content personally. I make content because I want to reach people, because I want to connect with them and talk with them about things I love. That's why I started this podcast. I noticed there's not a GFL podcast around. This is a super cool medium to talk to with people, to connect with people, and that's exactly what I want to do when I make content. So I was like, fuck it, let's make a GFL podcast. That sounds like a fucking awesome idea. And I'm having a blast with every episode that we record. But there's only that much stuff to go around when you're talking about a game that lives relatively slowly, like GFL. We might be living through exciting times in GFL, especially when we look at other servers. But both Naito and me are people that don't like looking ahead at the content that other servers get. We just want to be surprised ourselves. We've already kind of broken that oath by joining the Project Neural Cloud closed beta, and at least I did, and I will hopefully do so again soon by getting into the GFL 2 beta. Who knows? Maybe. That it's advertised as a super limited thing, so I doubt I'll get in, but who knows? So yeah, basically just the seasonal break took so much wind out of things, and then it came to the last episode, which was our first special, where we talked about Withered, which, if you haven't seen that episode, you haven't seen my main account shilling it a bunch. Basically, Withered is going to be my attempt of bringing back Bakehouse and the surrounding projects around it that never released back to life in a modernized version. And that video bombed. I'm going to straight up admit it. That video bombed hard. Barely anyone's seen it now after 2 weeks, and barely anyone's seen it after 2 weeks, and retention time is absolutely abysmal. Which, again, of course, the numbers don't matter. What matters is what those numbers represent. But that is a huge gut punch, because I'll admit it, over the last few months, I've become incredibly disillusioned with the GFL community. I won't give any names, because I don't want any drama here. If the people that are, like, if the respective people are watching this, then they'll know that I'm talking about them. But basically, there were a bunch of disagreements, and after the pilot for season 2, the Polarized Light episode, we've had a post was made about me on circulating complete untruths about what I said about the story and lore regarding Polarized Light and Collapse Fluid. That, I said that the Polarized Light logo was a pike, and a whole bunch of stuff regarding Collapse Fluid mechanics, like the particle mechanics regarding Collapse Fluid, which that is just flat out untrue. I did say that the logo of PL was a symbolical representation of a pike, which I had previously confirmed by someone else who I shall not name, but you all know who I'm talking about when I say the Lord Chad, right? I had him confirm that for me, right? And then the stuff that I talk about CF, which that was not the first time I brought up those specific things that I said. Those were all extrapolated, and I did disclaim this the first time I said it, not this time around, because I thought it was superfluous. The things that I said there were entirely based on and extrapolated from the secret documents in Codename Bakery Girl. Those are the only lore documents I've ever actively read, and they are the ones most likely to be retconned at this point at all. And we will see the result of that on October 10th, when Reverse Collapse releases. First, there was a thread done accusing us of a bunch of bullshit that we didn't do. And what's much more important here is that this post is very reminiscent of an experience I've had before with the Symphogear community. Because there too, I used to be an incredible lore and story buff, and people fucking hated me for it. So much so that I got doxxed. And the discourse leading up to that was not dissimilar to what I've been experiencing recently. Then, on the same day, we've had 2 creators leave the server, and one of them completely blacked me out, both of which were integral to 2 big episodes that we were planning for season 2. So those were now completely out of the water. Again, I'm not giving any names, but I don't want to imply any malice in anyone's actions here, but I'm just saying it as it comes off from my point of view. That just sunk 2 entire episode ideas, and though that event happening so closely to that call-out post, as I'll call it, just makes it all seem like it was very much planned. Like they all just said, yeah, you know what, fuck it. We'll just... Wait, shit, my computer went into standby. Sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, it all seems like there was a bunch of collusion going around. So yeah, that's basically why we can't create a lot of the episodes that we wanted to do. Basically, we wanted to do a lore episode as a special in the form of a game show. But for that, we need someone who knows their shit about lore and is willing to act as a game show host. Which there's only one person that we know of, and that person decided to black me out. Or black us out. They blocked the Reloading account as well. And that same person has also rather passive-aggressively reacted to me creating Withered. And then there's another creator who we wanted to bring on for an episode about GFL memes. And they've also just left without a word. And because of the timing, it's been very awkward to, like, the idea of contacting them alone has been very awkward to me. So we haven't yet. You know, that might be a bit of self-inflicted pain there, but, you know, in this situation, I'm rather safe than sorry, especially after what happened with Symphogear. So that brings me to, you know, saying Reloading is going to slow down a bit from here, because we'll only be able to make content when the game provides new content, or whenever the new games come out. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Reloading, and the same goes over into my content. You might have noticed that the 2 videos, there's a third one coming out very soon, on my main channel have exactly nothing to do with GFL, primarily. Even though I've promised of making the Iceberg video and stuff like that. And, you know, both those videos did better than than the special episode about Withered. And that especially is incredibly heartbreaking to me, because I'm so invested into Withered, I'm so invested into Bakehouse as a thing that I want people to know about in the GFL community, because it's something so important to our history, and it feels like people are just fed up about hearing about it, which on one side I can understand. You know, we've talked about it at length on the podcast. You know, I released the patch, people have read it. In my opinion, it's regrettably few people, which is why I'm making Withered, but you know, it seems like people are just fed up, and that fucking hurts. Not gonna lie. The few videos I've done on my main channel, they've done better than the Withered special. And those videos are about 2 things that I've never even talked about publicly. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear vehicles passing by in the background. I live on the main road, and I've got all my windows open. Yeah, it's just disheartening. Especially about Reloading, because Reloading, by far, even if it's brought me so much joy creating this podcast, in this medium that I've never done before, and that I'm having such a blast creating content in, that it's been by far the least fruitful endeavor in terms of content creation that in my 9 years on YouTube I've had. Even my Let's Play days, relatively seen, I was doing better. And that's saying something, because those videos never got anywhere at all. And that fucking blows, because, you know, we have a Patreon. Reloading is fucking expensive to run. $70 to $100 per month, depending on the situation. That's a lot of money. A lot of money that I don't really have, but we'll keep doing it because we love it. We'll do it at a reduced rate. We won't be stopping distribution anywhere, because we want this to be a bona fide podcast that you can listen to anywhere you go, with any device you go, with any service you want to use, of the big ones, and even some of the smaller ones. we want this to be a genuine cornerstone of the content that you can find in the GFL community. And, you know, that does include us speaking about broader topics about Mika Team and all that kind of stuff. But right now, after everything that's been going on during the seasonal break and shortly after, things are looking incredibly poorly for us. That's part of the reason why we haven't released any articles on Game Press yet. Like we announced we'd do. We said, you know, we do these summary things, like these summary articles on Game Press to go alongside with the podcast, but to just offer people another way, another medium of experiencing reloading. But none of that has happened yet, simply because, for one, we don't have the time and resources, and secondly, again, we don't really have the community support to justify it. And that's not saying that we couldn't do it and we couldn't just pop out these articles on Game Press. What we're saying is that it's simply not worth the effort. And I fucking hate saying that, because for all the 9 years that I've been doing this, I've always wanted to put as much work as feasible into a video to make sure, or a piece of content in general, to make sure it's the best it could be. But at some point, there's just too much that can go into a single piece of work, and you have to start saying, you know what, it ain't worth it. And, you know, that's the barrier where we are with the Game Press uploads and stuff. That's why we haven't done any articles there yet. That's why I still haven't even done my Mika lore, like my Mika Deep lore op-ed that I've been sitting on for like 4 months now. That it's just not worth it. And that fucking sucks, because I want it to be worth it. I want to do these things. I just can't rationalize them. And I'm not saying this in an appeal to pity, to, you know, for people to be like, oh, these reloading guys, you know, they put so much work into their thing and that. No, I don't want that. I want people to follow us for our own merit. I don't want people to follow us for pity. But goddamn, I'd be lying if I said that, especially the reception post Season 2, hasn't been incredibly disheartening. And, you know, for one, we're incredibly thankful, of course, for the support that people are giving us. You know, we have a loyal viewer base, we have loyal followers, we even have people who for some reason decided to give us actual money on Patreon. That means the world to me. But it seems that past those people, it just doesn't seem like there's much of an audience for us. We share new episodes on the Girls Frontline Discord server. We have access to all the tools to spread our wings. But for that, we need people. We need feathers on those wings. We need people watching this and listening to this podcast, and they're just not. And on top of that, the people that would allow us to make the really cool stuff that we've wanted to do since the start, they seem to have turned against us. And that's just... That just hurts, man. Especially in a community that you fled to, seeking refuge from the most toxic hellhole you've ever been through. And now this is just kind of turning into a second coming of that hell for me. But I want to persevere and stick through this, but as a consequence of that, you know, we gotta slow things down, because we just don't have anything we can talk about without gaining a lot more support. Anyways, I've been rambling about this for 25 minutes now. I really hope you can understand that, maybe we'll only do monthly episodes from now on, or we'll only do live fire whenever something big happens, and then an episode afterwards talking about that thing, or that we may even completely diversify into other mobile games and talk about them rather than GFL for a few episodes. Because as it stands, we have to move to greener pastures if we want to go anywhere with this podcast. And I'm saying that in the best way possible for the GFL crowd. We do not want to abandon GFL as our focus. Of course, we are the GFL podcast after all. But at some point, only so much you can do. Especially if there's no content left. It blows, but we'll have to see where to go from here. Anyways, if you've somehow sat through this entire thing, thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot for following us. And thanks for watching. I hope to see you whenever the next episode comes out, where we will hopefully talk in depth about protocol assimilation. So till then, have a good one.